Lesson 12.5 Independent and Dependent Events. Essential question for today is how can you calculate the likelihood of events? First, we're going to define what independent and dependent events are going to be. Independent events are events that the first event does not affect the second event. Just like definition, these two events are going to happen in separate probability, and all you have to do is to find the product of it. For dependent events, these are events in which the first event does affect the second event. So whatever happens from the first event, the result is going to change for the second event. So we're going to go ahead and look at different scenarios to describe independent events and also dependent events. So let's go ahead and take a look at the example of independent events. Let's say you're going to roll a number cube twice. Okay, so first you're going to roll it, and then after you find out your answer, your number, you're going to roll it again. Let's say for the first roll, you're going to find the probability of rolling a 5. For the first event, I am going to indicate the probability of rolling a 5 by simply putting a 5 inside of the parentheses. And the chances of having a 5 out of 6 different numbers is going to be just 1 out of 6 choices. Let's say for the second try, I am going to try to roll a number that is less than 4. So I can indicate my probability, and the condition is that the number needs to be less than 4, and I have 3 numbers, 1, 2, and 3, that are smaller than 4. So I have 3 out of 6 choices, which I'm going to simplify into the simplest format, which is going to be 1/2. What I want to find out is the independent events and the probability of having 2 separate events into one. So I want to find out what is the probability of rolling a 5 and then rolling another one with less than 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two numbers, 1/6 and 1/2, and simply going to multiply them. And when I do that, my probability is going to come out as 1/12. Now they are independent because whichever number that I roll on the first try is not going to affect the numbers that I'm going to roll for the second try. So if you look at here for the equation, the probability of having an event A and then B, you're simply going to multiply the probability of the event A and then probability of the event B. Now let's take a look at some examples of dependent events. Let's say I have 3 chocolate chip cookies and 2 oatmeal cookies. And let's say they're both inside of a bag. I won't be able to see what they are, so they're just going to be inside. And let's say I'm going to randomly draw one of the cookies, and I'm going to do it 2 in a row. So I'm only choosing one cookie at a time, but I'm going to choose 2 in a row. Now I want to find out the probability of choosing 2 chocolate chip cookies from the bag. So my first try will have to be chocolate chips, and then my second try will also have to be chocolate chip cookies. So I'm going to set up my probability of my first try as chocolate chips. And I have total 5 cookies. So my first try, if I want to find chocolate chip cookies, I'll have 3 out of 5 chances. What I'll have to do for my second round is that I am going to assume that I already picked my chocolate chip cookie for the first round. And also I am going to have 1 less amount of cookies because I picked a cookie out of 5. So this is how your equation will look like. You first have the probability, and you have a longer word here, chocolate after picking a chocolate. Now, you have on the bottom number of cookies left after picking a cookie, and on the top you have the number of chocolate chip cookies left from picking on the first round. Because it's 2 over 4, I am going to go ahead and simplify 2 over 4 into the simplest fraction, which is going to be 1/2. So in order to find the probability of finding a chocolate chip cookie for the first round and then picking another chocolate chip cookies is going to be as follows. So you're going to have the probability of chocolate, then picking another chocolate equals first 3 over 5 is your first option, first try of the event, 3 over 5. And then you multiply the second try, which is 1/2 a chance. And then you simply multiply them. So as a result, you're going to have 3 out of 10 chances that you are going to pick 2 chocolate chip cookies in a row. So to represent the equation for finding the dependent events is going to be probability of A and then B equals first having the probability of A times having a probability of B after that first event A happens. Let's take a look at some questions to practice this concept. First scenario is going to be rolling a number cube twice. Rolling a number cube twice is not going to affect you in any way. For example, if you roll your number cube first time and again roll it another time, the number of outcomes is not going to change. Let's say you have to find out information, and I'm going to use the textbook questions from page 665, and I'm going to work on the odd questions, a couple of them. Number 1 is asking you, what is the probability of rolling a 6, then a 5? So I'm going to write it as probability of 6, rolling a 6, then rolling a 5. The probability of rolling a 6 from the first number cube is going to be 1 out of 6 because you only have 1 6 from the number cube. And then you're going to multiply with the probability of finding or rolling a 5, which is also going to be 1 out of 6 chances. So when you multiply these two numbers, your probability of rolling a 6 and then a 5 is going to be 1 out of 36. Okay, the second scenario is going to be selecting a card, and then without replacing the card, you're going to select another card for the second round. And let's say these are the card set, the letters that I have. Now the key point of this is without replacing. So if you pick a card, you're going to have one less amount of card from the total number. Number 8 question asks you to find out the probability of finding a P and then a G. Before we start finding the probability, let's go ahead and count how many cards we have in total. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have total 10 options to choose from. Out of the 10 cards, I only have one P that I can select. After I select a card, I am going to not replace the cards, so my total number of cards will be 9 for the second round. And then, in order to find the G, I just count the number of G's, which is just going to be 1 again. So as a result, if I want to find out, I just have to multiply the two fractions, or two probabilities, and it's going to give me 1 out of 90 of probability. Now for number 10, it's asking you to find E and then a second vowel. So again, you're going to start with total number of 10 cards, and then you're going to count how many E's you have. I have 1 and 2 E's. Because I can simplify the numbers, I am going to simplify it into 1 over 5. Now I have to find out the probability of finding a vowel for the second round. For the second round, because I already picked one card, again, the total number of cards will be 9. And even if I choose an E for the first round, I still have another E, and I also have A and another A. So I will have total 3 vowels that I can choose from after picking an E. And then what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to see if I can simplify the fraction. I I have 3 and 9, which I can simplify into 1/3. Now I'm trying to give you the numbers that are smaller to work with, but if you're not so comfortable working with smaller numbers and simplifying beforehand, you can just go ahead and work with 2/10 times 3/9, and it's going to give you the same answer if you simplify it at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and find the answer, which is going to be 1/15 as my final answer. So the key point for today is this. If you have two events that are happening, but the total outcome is not changing from the first one to the second one, you're going to use independent events. For example, if you're rolling a number cube, your options are going to be having 6 different numbers, first round and your second round. It's not going to have one less side if you choose a number. However, if you are working with dependent events, you're going to have different outcomes based on what you're choosing for the first time. Okay, so I wrote, for dependent, options will change based on the first choice's outcome. So you'll have to gauge and say, what are some of the word clues? Sometimes without replacing can be a huge word clue, because if you're not replacing, you're going to have a less number of items. Please remember to simplify your answers at the end or before you work with the numbers, so that you have the simplest version of the fractions. If you finish watching the video today, again, you can go ahead and work on your homework, which is going to be from page 665. And it's going to be from numbers 2 to 24 even. And if you watch the video all the way through, please put a little star next to your name so that I know that you watched this video. Thank you and see you later.